You may not believe in Bigfoot, but I can tell you swamp creatures are real. They're alive and walking around DC as we speak. So let's talk about the swamp and let's talk about FISA because they think it's okay to spy on Americans. Now I want to give you context on that. So in 2016, FISA was used to spy on Donald Trump. So you can like Donald Trump, you can not like Donald Trump, that's up to you. But the fact that FISA, which is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, it was weaponized against Americans is a problem. And look, so what is FISA supposed to be for? Think 9/11. It's to prevent terrorists who are abroad or maybe even operating here in the United States and their accomplices can be surveilled covertly. Again, I understand the premise of it, but the problem is there's been over 3 million Americans caught up in queries, quote unquote, under FISA. We know that it's been weaponized. We know that people under FISA were targeted because they were conservative, because they were Catholic. There were cases where agents who had access to this information were spying on their girlfriends or their ex-girlfriends. Again, that's a problem. And I want to say it again. These aren't talking points for a campaign. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't some maybe it's happening, maybe it's not. We know it's taking place. We know that they spied on a former president of the United States of America, and that should concern you. So we had FISA before the House of Representatives. And so, again, some of the backstory behind this is you had Judiciary, which is the Committee of Jurisdiction, meaning Jim Jordan's version of the bill is what should have been brought to the House floor. The problem with that is the swamp wasn't really happy with Jim Jordan's version because it was going to insert a warrant requirement. Okay, I know I'm getting into the weeds on this, but this is important stuff. This is about you being surveilled. Let me ask you this. Do you want the federal government to have access to every text that you send? Do you want them to be able to read every email? Do you want them to know your search history in detail? I'm guessing not, because right now they do have access to that information and it needs to stop. So Jim Jordan had a version that required the Fourth Amendment or a warrant as stated under the Fourth Amendment. So what does that mean? What it means is that the police can't come into your home without a warrant. It means they can't come in without probable cause. And guess what? I think if they're going to investigate you, they should have probable cause. They should be able to articulate a warrant. And look, I get it. But what if it's another 9/11? What if an attack is imminent? There's a provision in there that allows for if there's exigent circumstances, if they believe there's imminent bodily harm, that they can act to make sure that that event doesn't happen. Now, in circumspect, they have to be able to defend their actions. But again, in the same way police would have to operate if they bust into your home because they hear someone screaming and they're trying to save someone from an attack, et cetera, they still have to be able to articulate why they went in without said warrant. So that's all we were fighting for. So the clock is ticking. Jim Jordan has his version. It's going to go to the House floor and it's going to pass. It has overwhelming support. And what do? The swamp creatures panic. They pull the bill off the floor. And there's a delay and they wait. And so now there's this back and forth. And so what was going to be voted on yesterday, which I was one of those that blocked, was a 5-year extension. Now, why is 5 years important? Because it takes it beyond Donald Trump, because they don't like Donald Trump. So we know the FBI investigated Donald Trump, and this FBI did not want Donald Trump to have the ability to reform it once he's president of the United States. Donald Trump went to Truth Social and said, FISA was used against me. They're spying on Americans, which is absolutely true. And he said, kill it. And so like a good American, like a patriot, I was one of those that stood up and said, look, Jim Jordan's bill is what America wants. Jim Jordan's bill is the bill that is in line with the Constitution of the United States, and it protects the Fourth Amendment, and it protects you from an FBI that we know is corrupt. Again, that's not hyperbole. It has been proven. We know that FBI agents were involved in Russiagate, the scandal, the made-up investigation. And so all we're saying is let's get a better deal.